Hello, everyone, and welcome back to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast coming to you from live deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. I am the current host of War of the Stars. I am Garrett K. Jones, and with me is my co-host,
Brian Karathic. I've been promoted to number 2. Greetings, citizens of the Galactic Empire. We're doing a podcast, so you don't have to.
Exactly. Brian's sitting shotgun this time. I think we did that about a month and a half ago.
Yep.
Our good buddy John Mark Tolley is on vacation and dealing with some other personal stuff. I know that he's had some news about a relative of his who is coming to the end of their life, and so our thoughts and prayers are going out to John and his family. So today, and before we jump into everything, I do have a very special surprise for everybody. I've been working on a teaser trailer that we can promote on social media, and hopefully people will like it. Are you up for it, Brian?
I'm up for it.
Okay, let's see here. Hopefully Google has worked out the kinks. All right. Can you see that on your screen?
I see it.
Okay, here we go.
Are you still a fan of Star Wars? Well, good on you for being a loyal and devoted fanboy or girl. Since you're still a part of the fandom, make sure that you subscribe and listen to the War of the Stars podcast, an independently produced Star Wars podcast devoted to talking about the saga and its lore and everything in between. New episodes are produced each week and are released on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, thanks in part from our network connection with Geek News Now. Remember, this isn't just your Star Wars. This isn't just my Star Wars. This is our Star Wars.
What do you think?
I think it looks good. Could you hear all right? It sounded a little muddled on my end.
I don't know. I mean, it sounded fine for me, but I
blame Brightspeed then. That's awesome. That's my only question. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, the
Brightspeed.
If you couldn't tell, the music is actually the Imperial March played in reverse.
Funny. I like that.
I actually made a trailer for my last episode on YouTube, and to get around the copyright infringement issues, or to at least preempt them, I reversed the music.
That's good. That's very clever. I like it. Legally distinct from John Williams' score.
Exactly. Just with enough tones.
You should credit the music to instead of John Williams, credited to Will Johnson. or Will Johnium.
Well, what's funny is this last Saturday I had my season 6 finale, and for one of the awards presentations for best monthly interview, I mean I did all the presentations, but I did different characters. Like I did myself, but as a more like respectable author version of myself. Then I did like a musician version of myself named Garth Johns.
Oh, I like that.
Between though, I did one. It was Jack L. Samuelson, and it was my impersonation of Samuel L. Jackson.
That's good. I think I've mentioned the other cosplay I do in addition to Palpatine is Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nice.
I have to share a picture, but I have a full like handmade burlap sack costume that I wear. And I've got a hat. So the hat is his face with the upper lip right here. And then I built a lower lip here. So like I'm looking out through the mouth and But nice. I also have a suit version of it where I wear that hat with a burlap scarf as the mouth. And in a tan suit. It's not a burlap suit, but it's like a jacket. And I wear the a jacket and tie and trousers. And instead of Oogie Boogie, I call myself August Boogenstern Esquire. Eugenius Boogenstern. That's what it is.
That's awesome. Awesome. So today, everybody, we are going to be doing a Q&A for you guys. And about a week or so ago, we posted on social media a call for people to send in questions on Instagram, through email, through Facebook. We got a handful of questions,
And thanks for that too. I wasn't sure who would answer the call, who would rally to our need.
Exactly, right? Like, I mean, nobody wants to know anything about me. I put out AMAs all the time on Instagram and nobody responds ever.
I put out an AMA on Reddit about being a Navy recruiter so long ago that when I got a response to it, I forgot I had done so.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm joining the Navy next month. Like, can I ask you some stuff about being a recruiter, about, what to expect? Like, yeah, but like, why? He's like, do you not remember that 6 months ago? Oh yeah, sorry. I was a recruiter on 9/11. I thought more people would be interested in asking about that. They were not. Turns out I'm not nearly as interesting as I thought I was.
Well, I think a lot of people want to join the Marines and the Army because, you get to shoot guns and blow things up.
Conversely, counterpoint, you also get shot at and blown up.
This is true, especially if you're in the Marines.
That was my hope for being in the Navy. Like, oh, I don't want to be like,
Yeah, it was a very weird time. Very weird time. So we do have a couple of questions that were given to us. One is a two-parter, and I think these questions will keep us busy for the duration of the episode today. So the first one that we got, and this is from Andrew Haley, Andrew Haley, who is part of the MCU Mondays on Geek News Now. He responded.
Nice. Hey, Andrew, thanks. Like your show.
Yeah, and which I actually took a turn and responded to his prompt for a similar question.
Ask him about Batman.
And I'm sorry?
I said ask him about Batman.
So I responded in kind with a question for their episode for MCU Mondays this week. In fact, actually, Andrew just sent us another question, so we'll be answering that in just a little bit as well. Yes. But Andrew's first question was, what got you into Star Wars? And so I figured what we'll do is with the questions, with each of them, like we'll take turns starting off. So Brian,
sure.
What got you into Star Wars?
I had no choice. I was 4, and my dad is an old school geek who grew up in England on Doctor Who and Star Trek, and so Star Wars was just right in line. So 1978, when I lived in Tehran, that's when it came to Iran. We went out there, and this is the kind of nerd I was. I brought my Luke and Leia figures with me because they were on a date because we didn't know. God had the toys for some time prior to the movie coming out, but so one of my first memories is walking down the street to the theater and asking my parents, "Don't mention where we're going," because I wanted to be a surprise for Luke and Leia. I wanted my figures to be excited about going to see the movie. And from that point on, like Darth Vader came on screen and I was sold. Oh my gosh, a giant robot Death Knight. I'm there for it. And I was Darth Vader for Halloween of 78 and 79. And then in 1980, we met Palpatine, and I was him for Halloween for most years after that. But yeah, it was everything I wanted in sci-fi. Like I had seen sci-fi where it was polished and futuristic and everything shiny and neat and works well. But I mean, between seeing Darth Vader and one thing that I loved about the technology, I think I mentioned this on the show, when Han Solo punches for hyperspace in the first movie, the fact that it didn't work sold me. I'm like, that's the kind of sci-fi I like. Because that would be my spaceship. Like, geez, I forgot to check it. I have inspection regs already. So that was it. I had the perfect combination of swords and sorcery and sci-fi and robots.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Couldn't have been more perfectly designed for me. How about you?
For me, the like Star Wars has always been a part of it since I was young. My earliest memory, or one of my earliest memories, is seeing Return of the Jedi in theater. I was like maybe a year old because I was born in 82. It came out in 83, and that's
quite an impression. I remember that age. That's awesome.
It locked in for me, and I remember it kind of got reinforced because when I was probably about 3 or 4, I remember going to Thrifty, the name that Rite Aid used to be before they got rebranded. and there would be bargain bins with Star Wars figurines from Return of the Jedi, near the front of the store. And so she would constantly get me figurines because they were super inexpensive at the time. Because by that point, the market had been saturated. There was less of a call for Star Wars.
$1.99 or something.
I guess, I don't remember. And I had quite a number of figurines. Didn't have any of the play sets or the ships or anything like that. But I remember as a kid, I had a lot of the Mask Mobile Armored Strike Command toys. And so I had a lot of figurines that became stand-ins for Star Wars stuff. And so like I had this one figurine, it was from a Sky Raiders playset. And because the style of his helmet and the fact he was wearing an orange flight suit, I put him in the cockpit of the Switchblade mask jet, and that was my X-Wing fighter. And it kind of worked for me. I remember getting like old PVC pipes from a nearby construction area and turning those, it was like pieces of like broken sprinkler or whatever, and turning those into my lightsaber. And I think I mentioned this before, like during my summers living in Phoenix, I'd ride around with this. It was one of those caps with the piece of fabric that drapes down your neck to block you from the sun. I wore that with some sunglasses, and I would ride my scooter around the apartment complex, and that was my tauntaun. I was Luke riding around on Hoth, because because despite the fact that Return of the Jedi was one of my earliest memories, my favorite of the films was always Empire Strikes Back. Like, we would go to the library in Paradise Valley, and I would beg my mom to pick up, to borrow their VHS copy of Empire Strikes Back. I think I burned through a hole through that whole thing. To this day, that it's still one of my favorite films. And so Star Wars has always been kind of an intrinsic part. I remember I was probably had to have been about 5 or 6, because my brother was just a chubby little baby at the time. And I remember one year for Halloween, I was in one of those cheap vinyl plastic Darth Vader costumes where it has like the picture and name of Darth Vader on the fronts.
Had it too.
Yep. And with the
mask. Still smell it.
Yeah, dude, seriously. And so I remember wearing that. There's pictures of me in one of our photo albums wearing that costume, and my brother was dressed like a little devil, kind of, predetermining his course in life, I guess. I don't know. But that's what got me into Star Wars. It's always been there. It's always been a part of my background. There's never not been a time where Star Wars was not something I loved or wanted to be a part of. So that's how I got into Star Wars. Let me share
an image here real quick while we're talking about that.
Go for it.
Let me bring it up. I shared it in the chat.
You shared it in the chat.
Can I share it in there? There we go.
Yeah.
How can we? It's not going to paste. I'll just have to present.
Okay.
Just in paint, no big deal. You may be a longtime fan, but are you a vinyl smock that says Star Wars plastic mask rubber banded over your glasses, zipped sneakers, and your dad's black turtleneck? Longtime fan. That is legit me in that Star Wars Halloween costume.
Yes.
You see it?
Yep. I see that. And so that was also me.
I gotta say that was a couple of responses to that. Your figures in the bargain bin. My mom's mother, God love her, she always wanted to do me right by the presents, but toy collectors will understand the comedy of this. In 1980, I got a Lobot figure from this grandmother.
Wow.
And I liked it. I appreciated it. I did not have it. But the funniest thing, even now in hindsight, makes me laugh. She said, he must be the most important person in the movie because he was the only one on the shelves. That's not how that works. But thanks, Grandma. Thanks. I like Lobot.
Yeah,
also, that Star Wars costume, that Darth Vader costume, was my first step into a pretentious cosplayer who looks down on commercial merch. Because my costume, my Palpatine costume, is handmade. I also have a Galaxy's Edge one, but for years my main cosplay was a handmade Palpatine cloak. I remember at age 5 or 6, whenever I got it, being angry that wasn't a Darth Vader costume, because Darth Vader doesn't wear a smock that says Star Wars and has a picture of Darth Vader on it. Like, that smock should have his box on it, right? Like, that's not a costume. Right. Give me a break. Also, I was unfairly discriminated against by having glasses, and those masks never fit if you had glasses. Go figure. Star Wars
never fit in general. I was swimming in that mask. I could barely keep it up straight because like the elastic was really worn out.
Sure.
For whatever
reason. I can still feel the rubber band cutting into my head. I can still
feel the staple like in my temple. So yeah.
Great question.
I have in the past done Star Wars cosplay for Halloween, and I'll show you because I think you'll appreciate this. Pulling up albums, Halloween. This is in 2005, Halloween 2005, and this was a costume that my aunt made for me. Now, I purchased the belt online, and the lightsaber is just a modified LED light flashlight.
Sure.
It just had the right look and feel without looking like an actual flashlight.
How about the Jedi wig? It looks great.
That's not a wig. That's my hair.
Hey.
I had hair
great, man. I'm sorry, who made that for you?
My aunt. She does a lot of stuff with theater and costuming, and so this was something that she did for me. And
that's awesome.
It was a heavy costume, but as far as like the materials, but I love, and I've repurposed it over time. I'll still use the pants and the tunic for like for Sith type stuff. In fact, when I went to Celebration 2000.
Is that the Dread Pirate Roberts I see?
It is.
Very nice.
As well as Batman and Pirates and Two-Face.
Oh, wow, that Two-Face.
Yeah, that whole left side of the suit was duct tape.
That's great.
But yeah, so I've repurposed elements of the costume for other things, and that would be Assassin's Creed costume in there with the white hood. I've actually repurposed that for doing a Starkiller cosplay.
So anybody who's talked to me for 3 minutes or more knows that I'm a Palpatine cosplayer, but my next iteration, if I get to it, I want to get a pair of gloves and a realistic llama mask and be a white llama in that same cloak, because that's one of my favorite jokes ever, is the crossover between Emperor's New Groove and Palpatine. That's my somehow Palpatine returned, because when he died on Death Star 2, he naturally went to essence transfer, but Vader was unavailable and Luke fought him off, and so he took over the nearest sentient being, or the nearest living being, a llama, and experienced character development as a llama, and then finally managed to make his way back to a human form. So boom, baby, that's what I really want to do. Also, there's a company that makes Lego heads. They'll custom make a helmet into a Lego head. I'd love to do a Lego Palpatine. I've been looking for a T-shirt. I'm gonna have to have it custom made, but a T-shirt printed with the pattern that is on the Palpatine minifig torso.
Yeah,
that's like a deep cut, man. I really like that. Like I have multiples of the Emperor's brooch, the little black rectangle, and I've used one as a tie clip. And like, it took a while, but somebody's like, "Hey, Is that like a Star Wars reference? Yes, it is. You win a prize. What's our next question?
So our next question is, what is your favorite line from Star Wars, and what is your most hated line? So I'll start this one off because this is so my favorite line of all time from Star Wars is hands down, I've got a bad feeling about this. Just because it happens every single time. It's like, for me, I'm a big fan of the show Psych, so you're always looking for the pineapple in every episode. That phrase is the pineapple of Star Wars. You're always looking for it. You're waiting for it to pop up, whether it's in a movie, a TV show, what have you. It's what
doesn't Chopper say it at one point in Rebels?
I think he does. Yeah. My most hated line, though, there's two that tie for this. The first one is the garbage will do, because how dare you insult the Millennium Falcon? That is
but everybody does. That's the shtick.
I know, but come on.
Leia insulted. You came in that thing?
So
I know.
many guy jokes. But the other one is Palpatine returned somehow. I mean, your explanation with the llama, probably by far the best. I don't even think Disney thought that one through. But yeah, I hate questions or phrases that, like, when it comes to dialogue, like, the best thing is somehow. There's no real explanation. Obviously it's through the miracle of
you're the writer. Tell us how. Like, that's your only job, is to explain the story.
But see, that therein comes from the deepest part of having someone like J.J. Abrams writing your script, because J.J. Abrams, when it comes to writing, is a hack. Like, he's great at coming up with some cool ideas for a story beat.
Sure. I love the destruction of Vulcan. Wasn't that him in Star Trek?
Yes.
I thought that was a great twist.
He has some interesting cinematography angles that he pulls, although I'm not a fan of all of the lens flare. But as a writer, he is an absolute hack, because nothing makes sense. Everything is by the seat of his pants. And you can tell that he doesn't put a whole lot of thought or character development into it. And
there's a very popular series of books about a rich man courting a young college student, and involving her in the S&M community. I won't say its name. It's just make up something. It's like something ridiculous, like 50 Shades of Grey. But at some point in the dialogue of this book, the first one, he is described as words to the effect of, his voice was like caramel-soaked brownies or something. Like, you're the omnipotent narrator of your story. Don't give me or something. Tell me about it. Like, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I'm with you on the somehow Palpatine return. I gotta pick a new most hated one, because that was mine.
That's okay. We can share. Sharing's caring.
Well, my most favorite is, if I may. Oh no, young Jedi. You will find it is you who are mistaken about a great many things. Because I like that Palpatine always has this, no matter what, heads you lose, tails I win, is his whole deal. And that's like the most annoying thing as a hero, is like, I can't just kill you, because then you kind of win too. And Palpatine has a more literal version, which is like, yes, if you kill me, you fall to the dark side. Open yourself to me possessing you. So yeah, but he's just so confident, and I mean, and to his downfall, admittedly, but just that, oh no, young Jedi. That I really like his patronizing, like, I'm afraid. That whole scene is beautiful. So that you will find it is you who are mistaken about a great many things. Makes me very happy. My most hated is gonna be somehow Palpatine returned. even Oscar Isaac, an actor for whom I have great respect, can make it work. Like, and you can see Isaac giving up on it. He's just,
oh yeah, you could see how annoyed he was.
yeah. Somehow Palpatine returned. Like, just get past it. Just spit it out and move on.
Yeah.
In fairness, the book describes it, and it makes even less sense, because in the book it is described as this body that we see as this Palpatine is a clone, which, as I believe I have mentioned, this is like if you get the clone, but then make sure it's still old and decrepit. Like, if you buy a new car, do you like, hey, can you put like 500,000 miles on it before I drive it out of here? Because I really want to make sure it looks as jacked up as my previous car. I don't care for that. Barring that, though, close second for me, least favorite is going to be the Wisa going home in episode 1, which harkens back to my least favorite thing about Jar Jar Binks, which he'd be a fine character if they just throttled him back a little bit. We were so proud of the CGI and so convinced this was going to be a beloved comic relief character that he gets the last line in every scene he's in. Throughout episode 1, you've got Oscar caliber human beings talking to one another. And then at the end of every scene, they're just like, cut to Jar Jar. What's Jar Jar think about this? And we get 30 seconds of him jumping up and down saying, Wisa going home. I don't care for it. So that's where I draw the line. Because he's nothing but C-3PO. C-3PO is exactly the same kind of character, the sort of bumbling oaf who runs a kind of an everyman commentary on the film in episode 4, 5, 6. They just overdid it with Jar Jar. So that's my most and least favorite. Oh, do you have a second place? Because I was a real hard choice between my favorite. My second choice would be the I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. My little green friend. At the end of episode 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I did kind of like that line because you can see just how much hatred Palpatine has for Yoda,
and he's been masking it all this time.
Right.
I've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
And like that's kind of the beautiful thing is that like the mask drops and the narcissist shows up. And you see it, and everyone sees it. But if I was gonna pick one, as far as dialogue, despite the fact that it's incredibly meme worthy, I would have to say the whole "I hate sand" soliloquy that Anakin gives is awful because it's like I get it. It's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy going to the beach. And that's why it becomes a meme for me is because I will quote that and nobody gets the reference when I'm there. But
there's not one person in my social group that wouldn't get that reference. I don't know who you're hanging out with.
Most of my social group would, but when I'm out with my family, they won't get it.
Apparently I make a face when I make a Star Wars reference because my wife will be like, is that a Star Wars reference? Yeah, it is. So I'm watching Powerpuff Girls with my daughter last night. And this is like the late 90s, early 2000s Powerpuffs. She's so into it. She loves it. And I don't mind consuming this media. I think it's great. But at one point, a villain refers to themselves as the master. And one of the Powerpuff Girls says, only a master of evil. Only a master of evil, Dolph. Amazing.
I like those kinds of references. But yeah, like, I mean, just that whole speech, but also the dialogue back and forth between Anakin and Padme in episode 2, especially the scene where they're in that fireside chat and she's wearing the highly suggestive and inappropriate dress.
Right.
That was apparently designed by Lucas. I don't.
Mister, there's no underwear in space.
Right. And there's so many mixed messages in that whole in every exchange that they have, and I don't get it.
It's super approach, but we gotta love it because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have Luke and Leia.
True, and I can totally see why Anakin's all hot for Padme. I mean, it's Natalie Portman, but
isn't everyone? That's why they made a law,
right? But like. We're talking. There's got to be something seriously wrong with her as a fundamental human being, because she got turned on by him killing children.
she's this, upper crust. He's like a bad boy who plays by his own rules. Like she's been, a complete aristocrat do-gooder her whole life. This is probably the worst guy she's ever met. He may as well be riding a motorcycle and smoking a cigarette and murdering a bunch of people.
Yeah, that would make sense.
We got another one. I know we're pushing 30, but I got some more answers in me, man. What do we got?
So this one also comes from Andrew Haley at MCU Mondays. He saw my post with our GNN AV club, and his question was, has the Disney Plus shows or projects made Star Wars less relevant? I'll let you start the answer on this one.
That is a good question, Andrew. I think that they have made Star Wars less of an event. I don't know, but less relevant. I would say more relevant, but less of what we used to call appointment television. Like in the days before DVRs, it used to be like we have to be in front of our TV by 7:30 on Thursday, or we're going to miss all the best entertainment. When Disney first bought the franchise, I was at every midnight showing in costume, and it got tiresome. I mean, you're not going to find someone who likes dressing up in costume. You're not going to find very many people who like dressing up in costume as much as me. But by the time I'm at Solo, and it's been 6 months since the last movie, like, guys, give me a break here. And so I miss the days when a new Star Wars release was an event to which you went to meet people instead of waking up at 3 a.m. to catch the West Coast midnight. And that's I've done that and I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's made Star Wars less relevant, but I think that it has made it to an extent maybe less special.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, because like it's still relevant. People are talking about it. I mean, if anything, say what you will about shows like Ahsoka and the Acolyte, which have create a lot of cannon fodder for bloggers, bloggers and YouTubers left and right. It has diluted the uniqueness of the brand. It's like I get why, because Disney has this mentality, and they did this in the 90s with everything that became a hit. They diluted the specialness of Aladdin by putting out a TV series before they put out the direct-to-video VHS animated sequel that explained.
SNES game was great, though.
It was great, but like the TV series came out before the Return of Jafar, and so people are like, "Why is Iago hanging out with Aladdin when he was trapped in the lamp at the end of the first movie?" Because they hadn't put that out yet. They got ahead of themselves on that. And that part of that's Michael Eisner wanting to get stuff out and just, cashing in on that cow. But, you have these things that you've got this habit of Disney, putting the cart before the horse and throwing stuff out there, whether the quality is good or not. And
are you a Lion King guy, by the way? I have an addendum.
I like Lion King. I loved the film. The music was great. Listen to the soundtrack for a good portion of 1983. Sure.
Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, is
never saw it.
Arguably a decent movie. Like there's nothing to really object to. I mean, it was kind of direct to video as well, but I think it's easily in there with some of the latter day Disney cartoon. I would put Lion King 2 up against Tarzan 1 and as about roughly equal. However, years later, they made a series called The Lion Guard, which I
never got a chance to watch.
Don't if you have a kid, sure, but it's not for us. What is for us though, as a Star Wars fan and like someone who likes to get into the canon, like what does this mean for the show? The Lion Guard takes place at roughly the same time as Lion King 2, but it came out years later, and it is marketed to an audience that expects their story to be about a team of racially diverse heroes encountering non-lethal, low-stakes challenges.
How do you make lions
Racially diverse.
Yeah, they're
Well,
all lions.
The Lion Guard is led by Simba's second child, Kion, and the rest of the Lion Guard is a cheetah, a honey badger, a hippopotamus, and an eye bird.
So all animals that would not interact with each other. Got it.
It's the Lion King. Like, it's, all these animals bowing down to Simba in the opening of the movie would be his prey later in life.
Well, I get that, but I mean, it's like, but you think Lion Guard, you think other lions being involved.
There is some discussion of that, but but the reason I even bring it up is because the overlapping canons. There's a scene in Lion King 2 when they're looking out over the Pride Lands towards the Wastelands, and canonically they are looking at a volcano where Scar is a talking lion's head made of fire plotting against them in that volcano, but it doesn't come up in the movie. It's just a great overlap of like, we made this movie and then 8 years later we make this TV series and we don't know what to do with it, so we're going to bring Scar back. But hey, Christian Slater as a Cobra is great.
Make it make sense.
You can't. It's a Disney Channel thing.
Yeah. I mean,
why did Mother Gothel tell Rapunzel her real birthday?
Right. So
anyway,
I mean, yeah. So I'm with you on this. I don't think that Star Wars is any less relevant, but I think because the market has become oversaturated, the uniqueness and the specialty of it has faded. And
I brought my costume on a business trip because I knew that Rise of Skywalker would be premiering while I was out. So I brought an extra suitcase with my costume in it so that I could go see Rise of Skywalker in San Diego in costume. And that's what I like. And like, I went to the movie and there were people there. I walked around the mall for like an hour before the theater, like in character, telling people to come see the show. I explained how Palpatine could have a granddaughter. I did bits all night long. And somebody interviewed me for Instagram, and that was that. Now I'm just like, waking up at 3 a.m. in a hotel room on another business trip just to watch the latest episode of Boba Fett. It's good entertainment. I like it, but it's not an event anymore. It's just good. I'm another new episode dropped.
And I think part of the problem is progressively more and more over the last few years. I'd say since The Force Awakens has come out, we've had more projects that have been produced by people who are not fans of the saga. And that makes it very frustrating because they don't all they care about is imposing whatever issues that they have from their own past traumas and imposing them on audiences. You have people making stories that in some way, shape, or form may or may not be breaking canon or bending canon to a point where it's almost not the same story. And it creates, or you have the producers just being openly hostile towards longtime fans,
as you covered,
for one reason or another. And that's not the whole point of why it was made. It was made to entertain. And like, if people are not being entertained and they're saying, hey, we want to be entertained, and instead they're being told, no, it's not for you.
Right.
Who else is it supposed to be for? Because I mean, the people who are starting to become fans now don't have the money to support the franchise.
Yeah, to collect your $25.99 Black Series figures that you come out with 15 of. I think that to go into the diluting the market type thing, when Force Awakens came out, there was a huge run on toys.
Yeah,
people would buy any toy there was for Force Awakens because since 2003 we had been told there would be no more Star Wars.
Yeah,
and now 12 years later, suddenly there is, and I think that's what drove Toys R Us out of business in this country. Is Toys R Us invested so heavily in Star Wars toys, they thought they were going to see that same run of, we thought there'd be no Star Wars for 12 years, and now we know there's going to be a Star Wars once a year until we're dead. There's less appeal. And I think that they're making some bad decisions with the toys. Why we only got one Knight of Ren figure is beyond me. It's demonstrably a group of people
that we know about.
You got to make 7,000 different clone troopers, but you can't make 6 different Knights of Ren. And where's my zombie Cenobite Palpatine? Like, I want a Black Series Palpatine hanging from the gantry. Like, swing and a miss with that one. There's literally one Palpatine figure from Rise of Skywalker, and that's it. And that is the most dramatic character development that Palpatine experiences between 6 and 9. It's a greater arc than he experienced between 1 and 3, but we've got no toy commemorating it. But sure, let's have 7,000 different hologram Force Ghost, Kenobi wrapped in Blute's tinfoil. Like, it's. I think they're making a bad decision, and that's what I think makes Star Wars less relevant. Is their marketing? Let's make the same figure 17 different times with a different sculpt, or not even a different sculpt, a different paint job.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Sure. And luckily, I don't collect clone troopers because I'd have to buy them all. I got 3 shelves of Palpatines right above my head, but they're all different sculpts. And that's, I think, Andrew, I think that's what makes, what has made Star Wars less relevant, if anything, is the complete swing and a miss with toys for all of the new releases. All of them. They're so quick to make another $300 lightsaber to sell at Galaxy's Edge, but we can't get 6 Knights of Ren.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one of the things that breaks my heart is like one of my favorite podcasters. I mentioned her a couple of weeks ago is Snarky J Cosplay.
Yeah.
And she's a huge she was a huge Boba Fett fan. In fact, she started her channel doing reviews of episodes of the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay.
To the point where in one of her last videos in the last couple of weeks, she basically cleared. She had in the background of her studio where she films, she has a collector's case, and on one of the lower shelves was an entire shelf devoted to just all these collectibles of Boba Fett. She has since taken all of those things out, put them in a storage box, and replaced it with figurines of Eric Draven from The Crow, because The Crow is ultimately her favorite movie.
I had to stop my camera here because I want to show what I'm talking about. Three shelves of Palpatine here.
Oh my God.
Including, this is Llama Palpatine. I believe I may have discussed that one with you.
Yes, you have.
That's a custom. But I got all these little teeny figures, these little keychains from Celebration 19.
Yeah.
A tiki mug, my old Empire Strike or my old Return of the Jedi glass. So yeah, that's a Galaxy's Edge phone cover and some Japanese stickers. That playset was kind of hard to get. But yeah, I mean, I even went as far as he's tipped over, but the good Palpatine, or the blue saber Palpatine from Dark Empire.
Yeah. I'm gonna quote Michael Jordan here. Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, you're not the first.
It's one of those things that I do worry about, because when they started re-releasing Star Wars stuff back in the late 90s because of the special editions coming out to theaters, that made my day. I didn't necessarily like the super beefed up, almost He-Man-esque version of
the He-Man Han Solo. That was funny.
It was so bizarre.
Like Rob Liefeld drew his abs.
Right?
Or
he didn't draw their feet. But yeah, I don't know. But Star Wars still and the funny thing is, going back to our original question, there was a point in the last couple of years where I almost let go of Star Wars. And it had nothing to do with the franchise. It had nothing to do with anything else. It actually had to do with the fact that my wife and I, my ex-wife, we connected over Star Wars. She was a big fan. We had Star Wars themes threaded very subtly through our wedding. Some themes not as subtle. Like when we walked out of the church at the end of the ceremony, we walked out to the throne room music from the original film. And when we walked into our reception, we walked in under a kind of like a saber arch of lightsabers. Each saber was custom built.
Wow.
And because my ex-wife had a friend who worked at Disney at the time, and so she got all the parts from Star Trader and had her team building these custom lightsabers for a wedding.
That's amazing.
And and they were gifts for our groomsmen and our bridesmaids. And we walked in under the Imperial March. But like when that relationship came to a close, I almost stopped watching Star Wars. I almost
for your appreciation of the saga. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, so I haven't. I've been trying steadily to get my son into it. The closest I've been able to get is his new favorite song is Seagull's "Stop It Now" by Bad Lip Reading.
Nice.
To the point where, like, last Thursday, I picked him up from his daycare provider, and he's like, "Penny for your thoughts, Luke." And so we went into a rendition of it in the car as we're driving to my parents' house for his swim lesson. So
I'll have to do a recording of my Palpatine rap this year in costume.
Dude, you're gonna have to do that on for us on an episode sometime.
Well, my wife is what I call Star Wars adjacent. She tolerates it. So, like, for example, we went to England to see Rogue One. With a previous media outlet I worked with. I did the media presentation at the theater. I was the one saying, put away your recording devices, that kind of thing, like hyping up the crowd. And we got to see the film in a staff only theater, and we were sitting with one of the Death Trooper actors.
Okay.
So when my wife wakes up after the movie, what she asked, it was a midnight show, and we had just taken a train from France. Like, I get it. Like,
that's fair. That's fair.
She was tired. But here is when she fell asleep. When she woke up, I said, honey, it's over. It's time to go. She said, what happened to that little girl's mom?
Oh, my God.
And that tells you how soon she fell asleep in that movie. But, she goes to the films with me. She tolerates that I'm wearing a costume. Like, her mom made me my first Palpatine costume. Like,
that's so cool.
She's there for it, but she's not there in it. And that's fine. Like, she doesn't expect me to ride the horse at the horse shows. I just take pictures and have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Rogue One was actually my son's first experience in a movie theater because he was barely a month old.
Rogue One is my recommendation for a first Star Wars movie. There's always a question of, like, what do you introduce someone to for their first Star Wars movie? And Rogue One's a great one because you don't need to know a lot of the mythology. It's a good war movie on its own. You get a great Vader moment. And if you like it, let's watch episode 4 in a little while. But also it's made with modern day storytelling and modern day filmmaking conventions. Because let's be honest, if you show someone a 1977 film now, they've kind of already got to like it, or they're not going to appreciate it. I don't think A New Hope is a good hook to get people into the saga now. It was certainly all I needed to get into it, but it was 1978. I was 4. And that's the drawback Lucasfilm has now, is I always say this, they'll never be able to make a new movie that comes out new, but is also when we're 8.
Yeah. Very, very accurate sentiment. Well, that I think takes us right up to the end of our episode today. Brian, why don't you go ahead and tell the good folks out there where they can connect with you?
Absolutely. I post on the Sith Library and Sith Library and Archives on Facebook. It is a lovingly curated collection of Sith culture, Sith art, and Sith lectures presented generally in character. I do enjoy. We make enough jokes that I've actually been reported a few times. The Sith Valentine hearts candy that say "You choke me up." I'd give one arm and 2 legs for you, kind of stuff. Like, my absolute favorite, though, I found this art piece of Maul, just lovingly drawn. Like, he's muscular. He's Maul with Riz, I think, as the kids call it. And I posted on Easter, and I say he died for his beliefs and returned from the dead, but 80% will not share Darth Maul for Easter, and that usually gets reported. That's a deep cut. A lot of people like to argue, like, he didn't die. But in 1999, we thought he did. Why seek ye the living amongst the dead? Here he comes back in Clone Wars. Or Rebels, rather. So anyway, yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on Instagram as Corrosis. I'm 50 years old, so I don't do a lot of stuff on Instagram, but I'm there, and I'd love to hear from you guys. And I really am loving being on the show, and I'm so glad we got some audience participation. It was great to hear some questions. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate you joining in. Hit me up. I'd love to talk Empire, Dark Side with anybody who's interested. And I'll take your whole day from you.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing. I talk about my show, The Right Way, which just wrapped up its 6th season on YouTube. You just search for either GKJ Publishing or The Right Way on YouTube, and you'll find me. But I also talk about my books. The Archives of a Sink ran a fantasy series that I've been developing for almost 10 years now. Actually, I take that back. It's been in publication for almost 10 years now, but it was being developed far longer before that. As for us with War of the Stars, you can connect with us at our email, warofthestars1@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Instagram at war_of_the_stars1. We've tried to tweak that so that our X handle and Instagram are the same, but unfortunately that is just a no-go because someone else has that handle on Instagram, and I don't know why. But if you want to find us on Twix, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at War of the Stars 1, all one word, and then YouTube, you can find us at SW Child. That's for Star Wars Child. And that is the show that John and his daughter do called Star Wars Through the Eyes of the Child, which they've been going through the Clone Wars series in timeline order. So the first couple of seasons they jump around, but once they get into season 3, it's pretty much locked in episode to episode. If you'd like to support what we do here, you can. There's a couple ways to do that. You can buy us some coffee. I like coffee. I know Brian sure does. At Ko-fi.com/War of the Stars. You can also buy merch. We have t-shirts and all sorts of other stuff at our Spreadshirt shop. Just go to spreadshirt.com/shop/War of the Stars. That's pretty much it. And next week, what are we doing next week? Because I know that John's supposed to be back.
Next week I will be out.
Oh man. Okay.
I will be on vacation with my family.
Ooh, what are you guys doing for vacation?
We go to Emerald Isle in North Carolina. It's a lovely little beach. It's on the East Coast, but it's on the underarm of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it's an East Coast beach with a due south exposure, and that means the sun just rises right across you.
That's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, actually, I think
lightsaber swinging around on the sand out there at night, and it's having a great time.
I think next week we're back on discussing lore. So I'll have to connect with John and see what he wants to talk about. Well, that's going to be it for
the evil android brother to Data.
Maybe. Also, yes. I think we might be jumping.
This is War of the Trek. Thanks for tuning in.
I love that. So that's going to do it for us tonight. God, that was good.
I got you.
You did good. All right. Just remember out there, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. So until next time, may the Force be with you.
And get this book right behind me right here. Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. Excellent, excellent stuff. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.